Are you into rock, metal, metalcore, fusion, blues, punk, or pop? Most of these music genres have one thing in common. Distorted guitar plays some type of role in these genres. The question is, who was the first to discover and play distortion on their music? Let's dive into the history of a sound that has changed music forever. What is distortion? Overdrive and distortion are often created by the significant increase in gain of different amplified electric instruments. The result is a loud growling sound through guitar amps. There have been many ways of achieving this sound, from the early tube amps over the invention of transistors all the way to the creation of digital effect processing. The earliest examples of guitar distortion go back to somewhere around the late 1940s. With guitar players always being the leading force of experimentation in modern music, they noticed that their tube amps would get their sound distorted with the volume turned to dangerously high levels. Although engineers back then considered this to be an unwanted sound, guitar players seemed to enjoy this new tone and actively tried to create and use it. One of the ways to create distortion was to actually damage the amplifier. Some players found experimenting with humbuckers or switching pickups that were designed for lap steel guitars had a similar effect. One of the earliest known examples of distorted guitar playing would be by Bob Wills in 1947, called the Bob Wills Boogie. Robert Barnard played the guitar on this track. This song has distortion, but not the metal distortion of the current day or in heavier music that we're used to listening to. Willie Kizart, who played with Ike Turner, went into a studio to record a song called Rocket 88. He had a faulty tube amp, and this was 1951. Kizart damaged the amp while traveling, and this gave it a buzzing sound. He couldn't find anyone to repair his amp, so he just went with his new sound, and then other players wanted to replicate it. Moving up to 1961, Grady Martin got his preamp broken before the recording of Martin Robbins' track, Don't Worry. Martin recorded the instrumental song, The Fuzz, using this amp. He's often referred to as the first guitar player to use the fuzz effect in a song. The Ventures used this new effect on their 1962 song, The 2,000-Pound Bee. The person responsible for this fuzz was Orville Rhodes, who the band members asked to make a fuzz box for their guitars. Dave Davies of the Kinks decided to slash and poke the speaker cone on his El Pico amp. You can hear the results on their hit, You Really Got Me, which is the sound that changed guitar forever. The heaviness of the sound was amplified by using power chords. There was a big breakthrough in 1962. The first commercial fuzz pedal was released. The FZ1 fuzz tone was produced by Gibson under the Maestro label. It had volume, attack, and an on-off switch. In 1965, the Rolling Stones recorded a version of I Can't Get No Satisfaction. Keith Richards played the song with the Maestro FZ1, and when the song was released, sales of the FZ1 went through the roof. In 1966, Marshall began boosting the treble end of their tube amps, which allowed players to get a sweet and raw organic distortion. Jimi Hendrix took it to the next level with the Arbiter Fuzz Face. This circular pedal was produced with germanium transistors. Jimmy Page, Ritchie Blackmore, and Tony Iommi pushed the limits to create a new genre of rock called heavy metal. Iommi and Blackmore became known for their use of Dollar Arbiter Rangemaster treble boost. On 1971's Master of Reality album, Iommi used the Rangemaster through a Laney amp. The 1970s saw a huge rise in overdrive and distortion pedals, with Boss creating the OD1, the DS1, and MXR had the Distortion Plus. There was the Electro Harmonix Big Muff, and the Ibanez Tube Screamer TS-808. All of these pedals are still being produced today. And in the 1980s, many guitar players combined the Tube Screamer with the Marshall JCM 800, which created some of the most iconic high-flying tones of 80s metal. As metal developed, Boss created the HM2 and the DS2, and amp producers such as PV and Mesa Boogie began releasing amps with distortion channels. The Mesa Boogie dual rectifier was used by Metallica on their influential Master of Puppets release. Now we live in the digital age, and at this time, digital audio workstations, pedal boards, and rack-based units have gotten to the point where these devices sound as good or better than stomp boxes and amp channel distortion, depending on your perspective. Guitar players can argue whether analog or digital distortion is best, but what's great now are all of the available options and formats for guitar players to choose from. Thanks for checking out this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been Damon D. One World, One Rock.